What's up, everybody? John Hoover, Sooners on SI, along with Ryan Chapman, Randall Sweet. We're back on the field post-game, where we just watched Oklahoma hang on by the skin of its teeth to a 16-12 victory over Houston. Houston got housed last week at home by UNLV by 20 points and comes to Oklahoma and almost scores the upset. Ryan, let's start with the offense. Everything went wrong.
If you see any smoke behind us, I think the steaming pile of garbage, that's kind of how it felt like for Oklahoma. They had 2 scoring drives for the offense. One of those, by the way, was merely a 10-yard connection because Houston muffed the punt. This is a Houston defense last week, guys, that gave up almost 200 yards of offense. I know that UNLV's go-go offense is a lot different than how most teams attack, but Oklahoma finished with, 249 yards of total offense. Jackson Arnold, very underwhelming again through the air, 19 of 31. Had an interception as well. It looked like, I don't know if Deion Burks cut off his route too early, what was happening there, but this offense, guys, they got behind the chains again. They averaged 9.1 yards to the sticks on third down. So on average, it was 3rd and 9 or greater. Jackson was trying to force it. The offensive line wasn't getting enough pass protection for him to sit back there and let deep routes develop. And then, guys, talking to everyone post-game, whether it be Brent Venables, Seth Luttrell, Jackson Arnold, this performance tonight wasn't just on the offensive line. Jake Taylor started at right tackle, Josh Bates at center, Taylor had to leave, then it was Tarquin at right tackle, but it was not oh, hey, you figure out the offensive line. It was a little bit of everything. Running backs making bad cuts, Jackson Arnold missing throws. It was a disaster, again, against a really, really bad Houston defense. And when you look at it, even in the end, Oklahoma gets the safety, which we'll talk about here in a second. All they had to do was run the clock out. They couldn't even do that right. There is a huge, huge, huge drawing board that they're going to have to get to this week because forget talking SEC. The way that Tulane defensive front played against Kansas State, if this Oklahoma offense plays like this, it's going to be another nail-biter on Owen Field next Saturday.
Watch the Brent Venables press conference on our website and on my YouTube channel. I asked him right off the top, Brent, what's the disconnect? Is it 3 or 4 things that you can boil down, or is it across the board? And he goes, man, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. Got to reevaluate some things, he said. What that tells me is they've been doing something that they're not currently pleased with. Is that game planning? Is that play calling? Is that communication? Are the iPads broken? Is the helmet comms not working? You know what I mean? Everything went wrong for the offense today. Houston came down here and outgained Oklahoma, had more first downs, had a higher completion percentage, the whole thing. Third downs, Oklahoma was bad on third down again, just as bad as Houston, 4 of 12, I think it was.
4 of 14.
4 of 14, thank you.
Don't short them.
Well, they both were 4 of 14, but yeah, that's an illustration. You don't want to be tied with Houston when you're talking about offense based on last week with anything. However, what we saw tonight was the type of Oklahoma team, 2024, Brent Venables, year 3, right? Oklahoma is now propelled by its defense. Who saw that coming, right?
It is really funny, kind of in a very quick time period, how Oklahoma's defense has turned around and had to bail out the offense now rather than it used to be vice versa. You got a good performance again from that defensive front. Grayson Halton specifically had a monster game, a few plays in the backfield, obviously that big safety. I thought really a lot of those interior guys in the front played well again, specifically Halton, of course, but even in the second and third levels of the defense, Danny Stutzman, linebacker, he had a really solid game. I think 15 tackles. 15. He was all over the field.
6 of those on the first drive.
And it felt like every time he was hitting someone, he was laying the wood. He was really bringing it tonight. And then Robert Spears-Jennings had a good night tonight too. He made a few plays in the back around the line of scrimmage. Of course, had the big interception as well that OU couldn't convert on. Sammy Omasigo even got in with a few injuries and just rotations. He made a few nice plays in the backfield. So I think you really like what you're seeing from Oklahoma's defensive group, especially in the run game. Houston had almost no success running the ball. The one area that's a little bit concerning is Donovan Smith, 24 of 28 for 260 yards, I believe. That's only 4 incompletions. That's got to be concerning, but again, only 12 points at the end of the day, so not the end of the world. Oklahoma's defense overall played well. Against the run, they played really good, and that interior defensive line, I think, it's proving that that's kind of the strength of this team. Even Dominic Williams had another good game.
Yeah, he did. Dominic Williams did. Donovan Smith was 50% last week against UNLV, 15 of 30, I think. But the guy that makes the game-winning play, the game-clinching play, except for the offense couldn't get a first down at the end, Grayson Halton, for the second week in a row, finds himself in the backfield. This time, to clinch the ball game, he gets past his blocker, low pad level, shoots the gap, finds the running back in the end zone with the football, tackles him before he gets out. I personally looked at the replay on the big board. I thought, he's out of the end zone. Ref looked at the replay and said, he's in the end zone. It was a safety, 16-12. The game was 14-12 at that point. Houston was going down to try to find a field goal to win the thing.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say that play happened right in front of me. So if you want to see it from a different angle, go to our website, OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com. Got a great shot of celebration after. I agree with you, Hoover. Standing right there, I thought the ball carrier was out of the end zone as well. The official replay was hard to really determine, and they didn't confirm it. The call only stood. So.
Yep. You know what else wasn't particularly great tonight? Special teams struggled. We're sitting in the press box up here. We look out here on the field. Sooners had 2 dropped punts, had a ball go into the end zone on a punt, which you can't fault Elzinga for that because he dropped 2 that were inside the 5, so that's pretty good average. But and right down here, they got the punt that Elzinga dropped that the kid kind of bounced up and hit his hand, hit his thumb or something. Lewis Carter came down and pounced on it, even though there was another player, Jacoby Johnson, waiting for it to stop. It was a really strange play, but hustling down, Brent Venables said you coach him to the whistle, and that's what Lewis Carter did. He didn't hear the whistle. He didn't know if the guy touched it or not, but he was going to pounce on it. Produced a touchdown, 10-yard touchdown drive. So the special teams was pretty good at some things, but they did struggle, including another missed field goal.
Yeah, let's just real quick, the good, it's easy to get out of the way. 5 of those 8 Elzinga punts ended up being inside the 20. He averaged 44 yards a punt. You'll take that.
Yep.
Lewis Carter, like we talked about, a good Peyton Bowen punt return that was caught just behind us. But yeah, I mean, you talk about Keltner, your reigning SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, rolls out there and just pulls a field goal.
Wasn't even close.
Everything looked fine as far as the snap and the hold. Brent Venables after the game was like, yep, he just pulled it. So back to the drawing board there, I suppose. You look at the fact that Billy Bowman and Peyton Bowen. Bowen had a good punt return, but both those guys dropped the ball. They were falling down the field. And Brent Venables went as far as to say that Billy Bowman looked like a freshman fielding those punts back there. He also had an awful kickoff return that he ran just straight into a gunner and pinned OU back at the 15-yard line. Special teams, not good, which, again, Zach Galley, Brent Venables' units on defense, that was about the only good tonight in Norman.
Yep, we'll finish with the offense because the offense stunk so bad we have to double team it. So I want to get your thoughts on this. They had a 30-yard pass, they had a 28-yard pass, and those are the only 2 plays they had all night long that were over 15 yards. Yep. You can't stretch the field when you can't stretch the field, right? I mean, that's huge.
And it's confusing too because we heard all offseason about the speed of this receiving core. I know a lot of these guys are hurt, but still, I mean, you've got good players in that receiving core if you're Oklahoma. Deion Burks is still there. Brennan Thompson is still there. These are guys who have proven that they can stretch the field vertically. Doesn't seem like they're really in sync right now with Jackson Arnold. Doesn't seem like the plays really are working in OU's favor that way. I also thought it was interesting, you know, you have Josh Bates in the game. He struggled some, and then, of course, that just terrible penalty at the end of the game. I'm not really sure what was, I mean, I know it's the heat of the moment, but you cannot take your helmet off on the field in that situation. That's a terrible mistake. And that's really kind of the story of the offense tonight. It would, you know, make one play, make 2 plays, and then they would make a mistake, or they would score on a drive, they'd get a defensive stop, and then they'd turn around and have a 3-and-out on offense. No big shots. They were always behind the sticks, and so it didn't feel like Oklahoma was running the ball very often because it's always, you know, 3rd and 9, 2nd and 11, things like that. And it's hard to create a good running game whenever you're always behind the sticks. Hard to create a vertical passing game whenever you're, again, always having to drop back.
Yeah. Ryan told me during the game that they were averaging 3rd and 9. Their average 3rd down was 9 yards to go. You can't do that if on 1st down and 2nd down to get to 3rd down, and you have to just, I mean, there's a little bit of pressure, there's a receiver covered, and you just have to throw it away or throw it into coverage. That's what Jackson Arnold's night was like tonight. The interception was really bad. It was a bad decision, was a bad throw, was a bad read. It was a nice catch by the defender. A couple of guys were hurt tonight. I thought that they've been trying to get back. Nick Anderson, wide receiver, hurt. Brandon Hickman tried to go. He warmed up. I think he suited out, but decided not to go. Garen Hatchett wasn't wearing the arm brace, but he did go through warm-ups and then decided at the end, nah, I'm not going to suit up at all. So they're still missing some guys. They're still trying to get some guys back, and they better get them back soon because Tulane's coming to town. If you guys watched that Tulane-Kansas State game today, Tulane was up on K-State in New Orleans by 10 points at halftime, and they were throwing into the end zone before a K-State interception finally sealed that thing on the final play of the game. Crazy game. And guess who's coming to town after that? Tennessee, the Volunteers. They're going to be right here in 2 weeks. You think this team is 2 weeks away from being ready to face Tennessee?
Tennessee's will volunteer a very, very lopsided entrance to the SEC if they play anything like this.
They played very well today against NC State as well, so I just blew them out of the water.
Yeah.
I think that's it for tonight. It wasn't all bad, but most of it was bad.
Weird football game.
Weird
Very
football game.
weird football.
Weird.
How often do you see a 16-12 game?
Hey, here's the solace. Weird college football Saturday. At least Oklahoma didn't lose to Northern
Yep.
Illinois like Notre Dame did,
Yep.
but Penn State got pushed by Bowling Green. Michigan is not fielding an offense. I think Oklahoma and Michigan could play to a 3-3 draw right now. So it's not all bad across the country, but it was a lot bad here in North.
That would set football back a decade or so.
Well, it's what the Cyhawk
decades.
game is.
I was
for
gonna
every
say,
year.
it's just like Iowa
That's what
football.
Iowa State is for every
I
year.
love it. Next game is Tulane right here, 2:30 p.m. next Saturday. We'll be here. Keep it here. Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. For Ryan, for Randall, I'm John Hoover. See you guys.